Hey, what's going on YouTube? So today I wanted to make a little different of a video for you guys. I wanted to make a video on kind of talking about the lenses that I use with the Fujifilm XT-3. When my business partner and I were looking into buying the XT-3s, we didn't really know which lenses to use. We ended up getting the Fringer adapter. I made a video on that one, so yeah, feel free to check that out. But then I couldn't really find a video on the best lenses, you know? For us, we wanted to find lenses that had IS because the XT-3 does not have any stabilization on the sensor. So every lens in this video, or that I'm gonna show you right here on the table, has IS, and that was a really big part of our decision on buying these lenses. You know, we decided to go with Canon lenses because that's just those are the lenses that we've been using forever, basically. You know, I had the T3i, I used it for the T3i. I had the GH4, I used it with the GH4 with the Metabones adapter. The Sony, used the Canon lenses with the Comlight adapter for the Sony. And then, you know, you invest all that money into Canon lenses, it's like you just stay with it. You know, if not, then you're just investing into just lenses that you might not be using in the future. I just wanted to go over the lenses that we use for our videos. And as I'm talking about each lens, I'll just put like footage that we've taken like on wedding days or just filming other things. And just so you can see what they look like with the XT3. And I'll just, you know, voice my opinion on each lens and what I think about each one. So before moving forward, I just wanted to give you guys a couple notes. All the lenses that we're using are Canon lenses. So we're using the Fringer adapter. I made a video about that adapter previously, so you know, go to my channel and check that out if you want to know more about that. Another thing to take note of is that the camera is an APS-C size sensor. So basically every lens that we have, there's a crop factor of like 1.6 or something like that. So if you have like 100 millimeter, it becomes 160 millimeters, you know? So that's just like saying if you have a full frame camera, it's equivalent to putting like 160 millimeter on the full frame camera. It gets confusing, but just basically what it is, it's like whatever lens you put on the camera, it just like makes it a longer lens. You know, just to reiterate, the lenses that we're using have the image stabilization in them. The sensor's not stabilized, and again, like that's one of the main factors on why we went with these lenses. You know, lastly, I'm gonna keep it simple. There's reviews, like countless reviews on all these lenses. So it's not a review about the lenses, it's more of like why we have the lenses and why we chose to use them with the XT3. So the first lens that I'm gonna talk about is the Canon 85 1.4. This thing is like, it's probably like the best lens that we own. The only thing is that at being at 85 millimeters, like with the crop factor, it's like, I don't even know, like 140, 135. You guys can do the math, like whatever, just have like 130 millimeters, right? And it has IS, but even with that IS at like handheld, it's super hard to use. And then, you know, when you shoot slow motion, there's even like more of a crop, like a slightly more crop. And then it just, you know, the image is amazing, but it's just a really hard lens to use. You know, we upgraded from the Canon 85 millimeter, which is like hands down probably like the best 85 millimeter for the price. You know, when we film like wedding ceremonies and, you know, we're kind of far back, that is kind of like our 70 to 200. You know, it's like super zoomed in. And of course, being at 1.4, like it looks great. You know, I find that the 85 millimeter spends the least amount of time on the XT3, but you know, when I was using the A7S II, or even like the T3i, I had like the 85 millimeter on like half the time. But for this, I just feel like it's way too close and just zoomed in way too much. The next lens I want to talk to you guys about is this one, the Canon 17 to 55 millimeter, but it is an EFS lens, so you can't like it's not a full frame lens. It's meant for their crop APS-C cameras. we kind of just bought these as like knowing that we're probably never going to use these again in the future. So these aren't future proof, unlike, you know, the 85. What we basically wanted was to have the 24 to 105, or, you know, the 24 to 70, but, you know, the equivalent is kind of like this, you know, 17 to 55 with the crop. It's kind of like the 24 to 70. You know, to be honest, this is like a cheap lens. I mean, as in like it feels cheap. It's not price cheap, but it feels cheap. It's not, you know, the nicest one that we have, of course, but I find that this one spends, you know, the majority of time on my XT-3 compared to the other lenses that we use. You know, I feel that, you know, the 17 to 55, like the price is justified. Like you want a wide shot, it gives you the wide shot. You want like a, you know, a shot that looks like an 85 millimeter, it gives you that too. For the all-around lens, I think that's the best one, and that's the way to go. Now, the next one I want to talk about is this one. It's the Canon 35 millimeter. For me, this is my favorite lens. You know, going back to the A7S, I loved the 50 millimeter. That was probably for me my favorite focal length using like a full frame camera. So with the A7S, the 50 millimeter was like, that was my favorite. But this one to me feels the same as the 50 millimeter. So if I'm just running around, you know, filming whatever, I would most likely have this lens on. And this lens looks a lot nicer, like the image quality looks a lot nicer than the 17 to 55. So this one spends, I mean, other than the 17 to 55, this lens probably spends the most time on my camera. On a wedding day, you know, I can, if I want to get close to something, I get close, and this looks like a 50 millimeter, and it's not like wide. It looks great, you know, but yeah, for like 500, 600 bucks, I think this is the best. This is my favorite lens that I use on the XT-3, like for sure, you know, like hands down the best lens for me. The next one I want to talk about is this one. It's a Tokina 11 to 16 millimeter. We bought these to use with the A7S. It is not a full frame lens, but on the A7S, you can have a 16 millimeter without vignetting. So we bought this one for like those super wide shots, and it worked great. And then now we downgrade our sensor size, and we're able to use 11 to 16. So this lens is great. There's no IS, which sucks, but I mean, most of the time when we're doing our wide shots, it's on a tripod or the slider. So IS, you don't really need IS when we're using this one. But another note is that, you know, this lens, it's a wide lens, but I really don't see any distortion. But when I did use it on the Sony, there was some distortion on like the edges, and you can see like the curve because it's so wide. But with this on the XT3, it's the best. I think it's the best wide lens you can get for like 400 bucks. So that's really it. I just want to say thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions, just feel free to leave the comments below. I check them like once a day. Yeah, I made the first batch of videos for my YouTube channel. You know, I'm like coming back into making the videos. So yeah, thank you. I think the first batch of videos had a good response, like a few thousand views on them. So that's a good start for me again. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or comments or anything, just let me know, and maybe I'll try to make a video on it when I'm free. Thank you. Bye.